Welcome back, guys. 100 Ways to Change Your Life with me, James Tremaine. And in episode number 2, the LSD Breathing Protocol. Now, we've changed things up a little bit. We're not in the office today. We're out for a little bit of a walk in the beautiful sunshine. As we're breathing deeply, I think it's quite fitting that we're out and about, getting the beautiful sunshine, breathing that fresh oxygen and life force energy in through the nose and getting that fresh air as I'm out explaining to you the LSD breathing protocol. Now, I developed this protocol while living in Australia, and I developed it subconsciously at first, and after a while of utilizing this protocol and then actually studying pranayama breath work and the nervous system and the subconscious mind, I realized I'd subconsciously stumbled upon it. Now, LSD stands for long, slow, and deep. Okay, so long, slow, deep breathing protocol. Now, part of the protocol is we also add held breath retentions, okay? Now, we'll discuss that throughout this episode. But LSD breathing, the protocol starts with breathing in and out through your nostrils only. Okay, now, wherever you are living, you should always be breathing in and out through your nostrils unless you're eating or speaking or doing hard physical exercise. Now, there's a few reasons for this. However, the first one is that your nose has filters. Now, the way your nose is designed, it's designed in a bend. It's got mucous membranes, it's got hairs, and all of these things are designed to filter out the oxygen as it goes through your nose, down your trachea, into your lungs, into your areoles, and into your bloodstream. Okay. Now, considering the world that we live in right now, with them spraying the sky and all the pollution and the dust particles and all these things that are in the air, especially if we live in a city or somewhere which is high pollution, then if we're breathing in and out through our mouth, which has zero filters, all of that oxygen is just going straight in through the mouth, down the lungs, into the alveoli and into the bloodstream. And all that garbage, all those chemicals, all that aluminium where they're spraying, that's all going straight into your lungs and into your bloodstream. Whereas when we use the LSD protocol, we are breathing in and out through our nose, which is naturally filtering the oxygen as it goes into the bloodstream. So that's the first thing, right? That's the first point that we're going to be doing, breathing in and out through our nose. The second reason for the nose is because when we breathe in and out through the nose, we're actually heating the oxygen up so it goes into the lungs at a natural temperature. Now, the only time you're really going to experience this is if you're in a cold country. If you've ever been snowboarding or skiing and you've breathed through your mouth on a cold day, you will feel a little bit of pain and discomfort in your chest. That is because the oxygen isn't able to, it's just going in, it's going into your lungs at a cold temperature. And this is actually damaging the lungs. Whereas when we breathe in and out through the nose will actually naturally heat the oxygen up so that it goes into the lungs, into the bloodstream at a normal temperature. And this is why you see condensation on the end of the nose. And this is why people will get ice crystals on the nose, because it's cold on the outside and it's hot on the inside, and that condensation, and then it freezes and creates that icicle on the end of the nose. So that's the second reason. The third reason is for prana. Okay, now, prana is an Indian Sanskrit word which means life force. Okay, and the word pranayama, which is otherwise it's associated with the breathwork practices, is pranayama. Prana meaning life force, and ayama meaning control of the life force. So what we're doing with these LSD breathing protocols and all the breathing practices that we do is to control the life force energy. Now, everything in the universe, down to its smallest atom, is just pure energy, frequency, and vibration. Quantum physics has explained that to us and proven that to us now. So and everything is connected by universal infinite intelligence or quantum field, whatever you want to call it. And that is connected through prana, life force energy, oxygen, right? This is what we breathe in every single day, and which is what is keeping us alive. Now, when we breathe in and out through the nose, we have this olfactory bulb, which is responsible for smell. There's around 70,000 nerve cells in the olfactory bulb responsible for smell. And when we breathe in and out through the nose, the oxygen and the prana, the life force energy that's attached to every single oxygen molecule, is being breathed in through our nose, going over the olfactory bulb responsible for smell and directly to the center of the brain. This action and this feeling and sensation of breathing that life force energy in through the nose is where we'll start to alter our blood, brain, body chemistry. And this is where we start to shift our internal state, how we feel. We'll start to get tingling sensations. We'll create different chemicals within the brain and within the body, such as nitric oxide, nitrous oxide. We also will create DMT and stimulate DMT in the pineal gland. Okay, this is all just through breathing. Okay, so that's step one of the protocol, is breathing in and out through your nose only. Okay, and then we go into long, slow, deep breathing, and we break the diaphragm down into 3 parts. So your diaphragm is the whole of your lungs. So your whole of your lungs will carry around 5 litres of oxygen, and most people are using around 5 to 10% of their lungs when they breathe. So about 500 millilitres of oxygen is what they are taking in it with every single breath. And most people with this 5 to 10% of the lungs are breathing short, sharp and shallow through their mouth. Now our breathing is intimately linked to our autonomic nervous system. So the autonomic nervous system, which is your nervous system comprised of your brain and your spine. And it has 2 branches. It's got a parasympathetic and a sympathetic. The parasympathetic being rest and digest, like the brake on a car, and the sympathetic being the fight or flight response, like the gas in the car. Now, the breath is the one thing that it can be controlled by us consciously, but also just happens unconsciously. You don't need to think about breathing, you just breathe. But you can also consciously think and control your breath. Now the breath is the remote control to your nervous system. So if you're feeling stressed, the first thing you'll notice, if there's a stressor, a danger in your outside environment, your 5 physical senses will take that in, and it will send signals from the brain down the spine and signal to different parts of the body to switch on. Cortisol will flood through the body, adrenaline to prepare you for fight or flight. Heart starts to beat faster, blood heads to the extremities, ready to fight or flight. Now, when we're in rest and digest, everything's calmed down, there is no danger. And the breath starts to go slow, long and deep. Whereas when we're in fight or flight, we are preparing to fight. So we're trying to get as much oxygen into the blood stream as possible so we can fight this danger off or run away. Now, when we're in our rest and digest state, everything's calmed down. The breath has returned to normal, is breathing in and out through the nose only, and it's telling the body that there's absolutely zero danger here. So the mind starts to slow down, everything starts to calm down, and we become more creative. We're able to solve more problems. Everything starts to function better when we are in our rest and digest mode. And the breath is how we do that. So we do that using the LSD protocol, and we break the breath down into its 3 parts. So you've got your belly, which is your lower part of your diaphragm. It's not actually your belly, but you can imagine it is breathing deeply into your belly. So if you were to put your right hand on your belly and then you take a nice big inhale through your nose, the idea of this is to expand the belly like you have a baby's belly. Filling the belly up with as much oxygen as possible. And then when you exhale through the nose, you'll squeeze and push all of that excess CO2 out from the belly. Now, if you take 7 of these deep breaths, forceful inhale through the nose, expanding the belly, forceful exhale, contracting the belly, what you're actually doing here is you're massaging your internal organs with that movement, with the in and the out movement. Now what you do is you fill your lungs up with fresh oxygenated blood, and that oxygenated blood then gets pushed to every single cell within the body. And as we move the stomach in this massage type movement, we actually then bring fresh oxygenated blood to all the different cells in the organs. So the organs that you will have in this area are your intestines, your large intestines, your small intestines. You've got your liver, you've got your kidneys, you've got your sexual organs, you've got your prostate. All of these different glands and organs are being massaged. So fresh oxygenated blood is being sent to this area so that it functions better. Now there's an actual doctor, Dr. Otto Warburg, in 1931, who won a Nobel Prize for his research in cancer. And what he discovered was that cancer cannot flourish in a highly oxidated state. So cancer cells, what that actually means is cancer cells only grow when the conditions are acidic, stressed out, low oxygen state. Whereas when we're breathing nice and deeply, we fill the lungs up with as much oxygen as possible, and that keeps away cancer and dis-ease, all right? Now, when we're doing this first lower part breath, the belly breath, what we're actually also doing is we are activating on a more energetic and spiritual level. We're activating our first chakra, Muladhara, everything to do with feeling grounded and stable in this physical reality. And our second chakra, which is Swadhisthana. This is also to do with our social relations. Now, our chakras, not to go too deep on it at the moment, are energy centers. And this is something that the yogis, the ancient Indians, had mapped out 2.5, 3, 4, 5,000 years ago. And they had mapped out these energy centers and these energetic channels which were connected to different glands and organs of the body. So when these energy centers, or chakras, or wheels as they call them, are out of balance, that will mean that something in our life is out of balance. So for example, if we have too much energy in the first chakra or too much energy in the second chakra, we might feel guilt, shame, etc. So what the idea of the breath is to do is to not only massage physically the organs and bring vitality, etc., but it's to rebalance and center these energetic channels within the body so that all of our mind, our body, our emotions, our consciousness all function coherently. So that's the first part of the 3 parts of the breath, of the LSD, which is the belly breath, okay? Now the second part of this is the middle part of the chest. So what you would do is put your hands up to the middle part of your chest and slightly squeeze under the chest. Now the idea here, once again, forceful inhale and forceful exhale through the nose, but the forceful inhale will expand the ribs and exhale, contract the ribs like an accordion. And the idea is to push the ribs out and in all directions. And once again, this movement of the in and the out, I will include, if you haven't already, I will leave the description of my fundamentals of breath and the LSD protocol, which you can actually look and see online so that you can see the actual movements and go deeper on it. But the middle part of the chest, I'll leave that in the description, should I say, but the middle chest, once again, is massaging the internal organs. But organs here you have are your lungs and your heart and your thymus gland, which is responsible for white blood cell creation. So once again, as we move up the diaphragm, we're once again massaging different organs here, bringing that fresh oxygenated blood to those areas, to those glands, specifically the thymus gland, responsible for the white blood cells, to fight off illness and disease, etc. And on a more energetic and spiritual level, we're activating the third chakra, Manipura, everything to do with your energy center, your go, 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 drive, creation, manifestation, and in your heart chakra, Anahata. Yeah, this is everything to do with being open and loving and giving to the world. Now, when we move up the breath, that's the second part, and then we move up the breath to the last part of the lungs, which is the top 5 to 10% of the lungs, which is what most people are breathing with. This is what most people are breathing with, the 5 to 10% of the lungs. And the way we shall do this is bringing your right hand to the little dimple in the neck, and you'll inhale through your nose forcefully, and as you do that, the neck will sink, the head will sink into the neck and the shoulders rise up. And then with a forceful exhale, the shoulders drop down. And you'll forcefully in and forcefully ex for 7 breaths. Now what's this once again doing is massaging the thyroid glands here to help with the lymphatic system, to help drain the lymphatic fluids. And also on a more energetic level, our throat chakra, everything to do with speaking authentically and communicating our truth. And then Ajna, our 6th chakra, our higher states of consciousness. Now the LSD protocol is combining those 3 parts of the breath together into one fluid movement. So it would be belly, you'd be inhaling through your nose, expanding the belly, then the middle part of the chest, then the top part of the chest in a nice slow, long, deep inhalation. That takes about 7 seconds to fill the lungs up fully. Expanding the belly, and as you move up the chest, you'll naturally notice that the stomach comes in. And then as you fill the lungs up fully to the last top part of the lungs, and then with the exhale, you're gonna squeeze everything out from the belly all the way up to the top of the chest. So slow, long, deep inhales, slow, long, deep exhales for 7 seconds. 7 in, 7 out, always in and out through the nose. Now the variation to this is to add a held breath retention, okay? Kumbhaka, as they call it in Sanskrit. Now, the held breath retentions do a couple of things. They, first of all, signal to our body, they put our body into a stress response, essentially. But a stress response that we chose to do. Now, when we hold the breath and we relax everything, the brain will tell us that we're in danger. But if we can slow our mind down and say that everything's okay, it then learns how to tolerate that stress. And in the process of tolerating that stress, it will create different chemicals to deal with it. So first of all, we have a boost in our human growth hormone, in our ability to transmute oxygen through the bloodstream. There is different chemicals like nitric oxide to calm the nervous system, relax the mind. And then we create more chemicals which are psychoactive, like DMT. Yeah, DMT being the most psychedelic drug known to man. And as we hold the breath full of oxygen, we stimulate the pineal gland. Sacred gland in the center of your head. And this gland, in the center of this gland, it has tiny little crystals. And on those crystals, you have tiny little cilia-like hair. Now, the way that your nervous system in your brain and body works is your brain and body is centered around your spine and your brain, your central nervous system. And within your central nervous system, within your spine, there's a fluid called cerebrospinal fluid. This fluid helps with conducting electricity. It helps with any falls or bashes on the head to protect the skull and protect the spine. But what we can do using the LSD protocol, using the power of the breath, using the power of the body and the mind, we can create an internal pressure. And as we create this internal pressure by curving the spine and holding the lungs full of oxygen, we force this fluid from the base of the spine all the way up to the top of the head into the pineal gland, and it stimulates this pineal gland. Pineal gland helps us to fall asleep by creating chemicals like melatonin, and from melatonin we can then create DMT. And DMT is the most psychedelic drug known to man. It's naturally produced in all plants and animals, and we naturally produce it in high quantities when we are born and when we are dying and when we dream. So what we're actually doing here is creating the most psychedelic drug known to man. And as we said at the beginning, the pineal gland is also the seat of your consciousness, or otherwise known as that. So it helps us to open up deeper levels of mind, intuition, guidance, problem solving, creativity, signs and symbols, all as we do these breathing exercises. So it goes far deeper than just relaxing the nervous system, because as we relax the nervous system, switch ourselves into the creation mode. This is where we get access to the automatic success mechanism. This is where we unlock imagination, intuition, memory, perception, willpower, where we then start to get signs and synchronicities on the right things to do, because we have aligned, cleared ourselves out, regulated our nervous system, and we're operating from a place of creation rather than survival. So the LSD breathing protocol should be done every single day, and breaking it down every single morning into 7 breaths in the belly, 7 breaths in the mid chest, 7 breaths in the top chest, and then 7 full deep breaths, and then hold number 7 for as long as you can. That's your basic fundamental every single morning daily routine. It should take no more than 5 minutes, but just to clear out your system, just to move all of that stagnant CO2 that's been stuck in the lungs from you not breathing deeply at night while you've been asleep, not moving the body. So the first thing you should be doing when you get up is breathing deeply. Get all that excess CO2 that's stuck at the bottom of your lungs and fill it up with fresh oxygen and get some movement into your body. Okay. Now, this LSD protocol should be done 24/7, 365 every single day, right? And the first thing that you should always be asking yourself multiple times throughout the day is, am I breathing? Because the majority of us, 95% of us, don't know how to breathe correctly, and we're just breathing the way that we've seen our friends, our parents, people who are mostly unregulated in our life, and they would have been breathing short, sharp and shallow through their mouth. So we would have taken on these habitual patterns of breathing short, sharp and shallow, which means we're always telling our nervous system subconsciously that we're stressed out, even if there's no danger around us, because we're breathing short, sharp and shallow. So the idea of this is to change our breathing habits, to start breathing long, slow and deep LSD through the nose only, 24/7, 365. And every time you notice yourself getting stressed out, anxious, worried, stressed, all of those sort of things, you're just going to come back to the long, slow, deep breathing. And you'll go and get unconscious again, you'll get stressed out again. Maybe you go a couple of weeks, maybe you go a week, maybe you go a couple of days, maybe you go a day, and then you'll catch yourself, oh, I'm stressed out. So you go back, am I breathing correctly? No, I'm breathing short, sharp and shallow. Let me take 3 LSD breaths, 3 long, slow, deep breaths. You can come back to the 5-step protocol on how to shift your internal state on command, which I'll link in the description below. And you'll instantly shift your internal state because you've controlled how you breathe. Now, this is something that I used multiple times while I was in sales-only commission roles in Australia. Working in Australia, if anyone's done a sales or a commission-only sales role, you'll know that it is, in my opinion, one of the best jobs to have, uncapped potential, but at the same time, you're taking on quite a lot of stress, especially if you've got a family or responsibilities. Then you have to be on point. You have to be there. You have to be full of energy. You have to be ready to overcome any objections and rebuttals. And you cannot really afford to become emotional, to be distracted, to have no energy, because your client and your prospect will feel that energy. Okay, so this is something I found while I was doing this job. Was I would don't get me wrong, I used to love a beer and a cheeky line, and I would at times come up the next day and not perform very well, mainly because of the hangover, but also when I would get rejected, I would spiral. So I'd be like, oh shit, I won't be able to do the next one. Like, what if this person says no? Just all in your head, because a little bit of the alcohol and then rejection, all these sort of things. But what I found was when I was able to control my breath, right, my whole mind would start to slow down. So instead of my mind going off like, oh shit, you've lost it, you can't sell anymore. What happens if the next person says no? You got bills to pay. All these things that happen in your mind, that if you allow yourself to go down there, you switch on your sympathetic nervous system and you are in fight or flight just from a rejection. So this breathing protocol was something that I learned to use while I was doing it. Just long, slow, deep breathing through the nose. And almost instantly, that internal chat of my mind, the worry, the doubt, the overthinking, the stress would just start to slow down. And then I started to utilize it in different areas. So I would just be walking around Surfers Paradise in Australia, by the beach, going from one meeting to the next. And I would notice myself getting stressed and anxious and worried. What's going to happen here? What's going to happen there? And then I'd slow down, I'd slow my walking down, and I'd breathe nice and deeply. I'd apply the LSD breathing protocol. And in doing so, everything would start to slow down. And then once I combined it with the 5-step protocol to overcome any cravings and negative thinking, you can literally shift your internal state on command. So part of the 5-step formula is to catch it. Catch your negative thinking, catch your terrible breathing, catch that you're stressed, you're anxious, you're worried, you're doubtful. And the second that you catch it, you say, fucking cancel, fuck off, get out of it, get out of my mind. And you take a nice, slow, long, deep breath, an LSD breath. you take a nice deep breath. And then you get out your vision blueprint on your A5 cards and you start to tune in with the vision of the future of the person you want to be. So the person you want to be, right, would he, right in this second when he's stressed and anxious, reacted this way? Or would he go for a beer tonight? Or would he get high? Or would he eat shit? No, right? So always, instead of letting ourselves spiral and go down these negative thoughts, because I think our thoughts and our feelings are connected. So whatever we think, we become, right? If we're thinking negatively and worried and fearful and doubtful, then we're going to create the chemicals within our body, so adrenaline, cortisol, that we're in fight or flight, that we're in danger, and then we're going to act like that. Whereas if we control our breath, right, then we can consciously choose what thoughts we want. We can consciously shift how we feel internally, right, and then automatically we'll take the decisions in alignment with how we feel, right? So instead of previously being stressed out, anxious, or got rejected from a previous sale, and then instead of letting that spiral, lost it, you can't sell anymore, and all of that, and then getting more stressed out, more worried and needing something to take the edge off, and etc, 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 is immediately interrupt it. The second you catch it, am I breathing, right? Cancel, fuck off, and then shift your internal state using the LSD principle, all right? Now, this is something that I've used over the past 8 years, from going from that 110 kilograms, overweight, functional addict, right, to 80 kilograms, 8% body fat, ripped, regulated, successful business, living in my dream island. And this is not to brag, but this is to show you, right, the power of your breath, because it is literally the remote control to your nervous system. If you can control how you're breathing, right, because it doesn't matter, your nervous system, your brain and your body doesn't know the difference between something that is real and something that is vividly imagined. So if you control your breath and you can tell yourself that you're calm, even when the outside world is going crazy, right, then you're going to get better results. If you've been rejected 5 times in the last 5 calls, but then you're able to shift your internal state and then feel fucking incredible for this next call, and then you turn up full of energy and excitement and passion and energy, well, that person is going to be more likely to buy from you than you turning up all pooey pants and pissed off because the last person didn't buy from you and you're hungover and you come down and all those sort of things, right? So by shifting your internal state, which is linked to your breath, and your breath and your nervous system is linked to the way you think, and the way you think and feel, go back to the formula, your belief systems control how you think controls how you feel controls how you act, and how you act controls your results. So our breath is the way to shift it all in seconds, and the LSD protocol is the way that you're going to do it 24/7, 365, okay? So just notice, go about your days noticing, how am I breathing? Constantly ask yourself that question. Put reminders on your phone, send yourself a text message, yeah? Put sticky notes around the house just to remind you, am I breathing? Every time you feel stressed, come back to the breath, am I breathing? Long, slow, deep. LSD breath protocol, okay? And if you need to shift your internal state quick, then you add an LSD breath hold, right? You add a retention, you shift your internal state, you raise your frequency, change how you feel, and then you'll naturally take better actions, okay? So, guys, that concludes episode number 2 of 100 Ways to Change Your Life. So I appreciate you guys all being here. If you guys want to go any deeper on all of the breath, on all of the internal control systems that we do, then I'll leave a link in the description for a assessment call for the internal control system. Okay, so book the assessment call if that's something that resonates with you and you want to go deeper on this work. Apart from that, share it. Let me know in the comment section how you find this. There will also be an accompanied video to show you the movements as well, if you don't quite understand it. Apart from that, share this, like it, give it some support, and I'll see you in the next episode. Peace.